wife and I have noticed when we go out to a restaurant, we've noticed that the happiest people in a restaurant, the ones that are working there, usually are the busboys. The people that make the least amount of money seem to be the happiest. All right. Welcome back to another episode of the Ignite the King podcast. Welcome, G. Russell Reynolds.
Thank you, Dr. Michael Diamond.
We're getting pretty good at this.
Well, we think so. We'll see if anybody else listening agrees. Hopefully.
We've gotten some feedback and some comments. So I think we're on the right track. We're covering some really good stuff and definitely starting to get into some of the nitty gritties of the work. Work.
Yeah.
So we to put this episode in time, we got an immersion coming up next week, the Lover immersion. Anything you want to say to that before we get into our topics of the 5 regrets of the dying today?
For anybody who doesn't know the archetypes, it's not what it just sounded like. The Lover immersion is not, no. That's, stop it, all of you. Stop it right now. That's not what this is.
Maybe.
Jesus.
Sort of, kind of, maybe a little bit.
Nobody's getting naked, dancing around a fire. It's not that kind of friends group. It's not that immersion. So, we've talked about on previous podcasts that the lover is probably the most wounded archetype of the masculine archetypes, because we don't know what the hell that means. I've expressed that the most perfect example of lover energy is a newborn child, just filled with joy and wonder for the world. They are nothing but receptacles for love. And, we in our society and as men have got it so twisted. It's like, oh, you mean sex? No, that's not what, operating from your heart. That's lover energy. Right. Can you do that in everything you do? That's lover energy. So, what the lover immersion is about, and don't get it twisted. We still bring the warrior in there. There's still, close quarters combatives. There's still Spartan workouts. There's still, all that stuff's a part of it. And we're helping men to get their hearts back online.
Yep.
And, what's funny is a lot of times we've had, at least a couple of times, we've had the men's wives tell them, you're going to this thing or we are no more.
More than a few times.
Yeah. Because they need to get their hearts back online. Yeah. And you may think that you've already got that done. Probably not. And, look at the evidence around you. Is your relationship thriving and flourishing and fulfilling for both you and your partner? There's probably some room for improvement, even if you're doing well.
Yeah, right? Exactly. Yeah. There's always more, right?
Yeah.
And there's always new layers of intimacy, of depth. So with the lover energy, it's you referenced something there that's really important around the newborn child being such the purest version of the lover energy. And our topic today is about the 5 regrets of the dying. And what I find interesting is as we get to that other end of life where we'll get into the details of Bronnie Ware's work, but these people that she interviewed or heard these 5 regrets over and over again were people that were terminally ill and knew they were going to die within, the next 4 to 12 weeks. So they were like on the other end of life where all the other stuff fell away because all they were left with was heart energy and the lover. It wasn't of the mind anymore. So it really is coming a full circle of that. So I'm so glad you brought up that reference. And, just to, for a moment, comment on the immersion itself. Yeah, there's always room for more. There's always more growth and intimacy and love and especially in an enduring relationship where it's like finding new ways to love each other, finding new avenues to explore. And frankly, as men, most of the men we work with, maybe they've touched on these in men that are seekers or people that are in the personal growth world. But this is definitely an area that at minimum could use some more attention. So,
yeah. Bronnie Ware, excuse me. She was a palliative care nurse or a hospice care nurse where again,
palliative. Yeah.
These people like they knew they literally had their ticket was getting punched any day now. And, when you're in that place, like, you get to look back on all of it. And the biggest mistake that we as men make, I think really as humanity, is that we don't look back on all of it, or don't think from the end in mind.
Right.
We live like tomorrow's promised, and it's not to anyone.
Right.
And
or that we have a lot of tomorrows.
right. That's
Right.
exactly
I'll take
what
care
I
of
mean.
it then. Right.
Yeah.
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 It's like
Well, let's get into this a little bit, and kind of maybe let's give an overview of the five regrets, and we can dive into each one. How does that sound?
Sure.
Cool. So as you said, Bronnie Ware, Australian palliative nurse. And I dove into her story a little more, and she was not in the medical field at all. I forgot exactly how she got hooked up. She got asked to basically take care of this person that was dying. And as a result of that, the company who hired her said, "Hey, would you like to do this more? And we can provide training." And she said yes. And basically, I just got to give it up to her and other people in the healthcare industry that do this job, because, palliative sounds so kind of neutral, but she's wiping butts, she's lifting people up out of bed, she's doing all the things that people at that point in their life, especially with terminal illnesses, just frankly can't do for themselves. So to me, these types of practitioners are just like angels on earth, because that's a hard job to do. Obviously, just being around death and people dying, but the actual work that's involved to take care of these people, it literally is like taking care of a baby again. And we talk about that full circle energy. So just want to give a shout out to her and all the other people in the world that are doing this type of work. It's needed. So
cool.
Thank you. And obviously it impacted her so much, and she kept hearing the same things over and over again, that she wrote a book about it, her memoir, Five Regrets of the Dying. We'll go over that in a moment. And she's since become a thought leader and a speaker, and has shared her message far and wide, and it's become really impactful. So we wanted to share about that today, because it really does relate back to life force and lover energy, and really around time, as you're mentioning, Russell, where it's like tomorrow is not promised, and we don't want to look back on our life at the end and regret the things that she talks about. It's like we have this wisdom now, so let's heed the call. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like me to read these off? You have a
You're on a roll, sir. Please go ahead.
All right. That's Russell code for you're talking a lot.
They probably would have figured it out.
For those of you that have been following along from the beginning, now you're probably just starting to catch on to our dynamic a bit more. We're prepping for the immersion. So the five regrets. Number one, living a life that not true to myself and what others have expected of me. That was the number one regret she heard across the board. The number two regret was working too hard. I was just going to go through all five real quick.
Yeah, no, just because different words. The website that I've got pulled up words it in this way: I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. I think.
Can you continue with the other?
Smart ass. No, I think
You're
that
right,
puts
I'm
a different.
ad-libbing it.
Okay, that puts a different spin on it. Yeah, it's like I wish I'd had the courage, because I think that word matters.
It does, actually, because in her talks, that's what she keeps coming back to, is that ultimately all of these things take courage. Thank you for bringing that up. And I think it'd be good for you to bring up what courage actually means. I know we've talked about it for years, but we haven't let our listeners into the real definition of courage.
Yeah, anybody. It's not like I'm, such a clever wordsmith, but Brene Brown talks about it a lot in her talks on vulnerability. That vulnerability is a requirement for courage, because the root word "cour" is French for heart. So courage literally means of the heart. You have to have an open heart in order to be courageous. If your heart is shut down and closed, there is no courage, right? It's literally of the heart. So, there's that saying that it's not that a warrior doesn't feel any fear. A warrior feels the fear. It does it anyway. So that's courage, right? That's what courage is, like, in the face of fear, in the face of adversity, because at that point, and this is my personal judgment, my perception, it's no longer about you. It's no longer about your little self-preservation. It's about the greater self that you serve, your higher self, or the people that you serve, or the mission that you serve, that calls forth that courage that, you know what, I'm, despite the risk to myself, I'm going to do this. Now, when I say that, what immediately comes to mind is like battle, and it's like, you know, I may get hurt trying to defend my family, but what about if you've had your heart broken before? Which, by the way, your heart never breaks. It's a bullshit saying. I don't know why we say that. It's like, oh, he broke my heart. Really? Because last I checked, you still had a pulse. So he clearly didn't. She clearly didn't. You're still breathing. So let's not say that he broke my heart. Like, my heart got hurt. Yeah. Right. So if you've been hurt in love before, can you have the courage, the open-heartedness to dare to love again?
Yeah. The paradox in what you're saying too, and Bronnie Ware talks about this, that a lot of these regrets are the fact that people haven't focused on themselves and given it up to others, right? So you're what I hear you saying is being called forward by something bigger than you, right? But at the same time, it's not selfish to focus on ourselves. In fact, all these people have given so much to so many other people. And that comes into the second regret of wishing I hadn't worked so hard, which was mostly from men that she heard that, not all men. But, and by the way, she does make the distinction that not all of the people she took care of had regrets. And that's important because some people out there might be like, I'm living my best life. I don't have any regrets. And she's clear to say not everyone had regrets. However, most did.
And those that did.
And the most that did, these were the top 5. So just to bring a little context into this, but she talks about having the courage to be true to yourself, to live the life that makes you happy. And happiness was just like the underlying theme, which, you know, was I believe the last regret. I wish I'd let myself be happier. And just to throw the other two is I wish I had the courage, again, to express my feelings. And I wish I had kept my friendships up. So there's all 5. Maybe I should repeat them all in order, but those are what we're going to dive into today.
Yeah. So I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. I wish I didn't work so hard. And where the hell did I go? There we go. Number 3, I wish I'd had the courage to express my feelings. I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. And then the 5th one, I wish that I had let myself be happier. Yeah, weird. I wish I'd spent more time in the office was not one of the regrets.
Right.
I wish I
made more money.
Yeah, not a regret. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish I'd slaved away in a cubicle. Not a regret.
Right. And they also make the distinction that doesn't mean you shouldn't make money. It doesn't mean you shouldn't do well for yourself. It doesn't minimize that, but at what expense, right? And what is sacrificed,
right?
And I think you know, just to jump into this one, we don't necessarily have to do these in order, but I think for men, because this is a podcast for men, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. And you know, I'm raising my hand here because I know there are many times where I sacrificed time with my family because I thought I had to work, and I had I just have this phone call, or I just have this meeting, or I just have this thing I got to go do, but it's important because it's providing and it's my mission. And there are times where that is true, and when it becomes out of balance, and I know I got out of balance with that, where, you know, I know in my son's first year of life, I was gone a lot, traveling between, you know, the Bay Area and California and LA for a private practice, and I missed out on a lot. And what I told myself was, well, my son's not going to remember this. I mean, how ridiculous is that? But I remember it, and I mean, I thought I did the best of making the most of the time I was there, but there was a lot of time I just was not there. Well, and I do regret that.
Yeah. And to that point, the idea of my son's not going to remember it. What is it that we've said before? That most of your belief systems are formed between the ages of 0 and 7. Correct. So while he may not remember, Daddy wasn't there, but the belief system that he formed because of it, that's still there.
And when we talk about that time with him, or at least in the past when we have, the story he hears is, I wasn't around. So now that's his story or belief or conditioning, even though he doesn't consciously remember it. Both, his nervous system does remember that. And two, if that's what he's hearing as a repetitive story, then that's what he's told himself. And that's the story he's going to carry forward.
Right.
So, and because he's told me in the past, like, yeah, I remember when you weren't around. And I'm like, yeah, how much is that you just repeating something you've heard?
Right.
But even if you're doing that, it's impressionable and it's making a difference. And so that's just a lesson I've had to learn in that situation.
At least you didn't say something stupid like, I had more important things to do. It's like, that's going to build his self-worth.
Right. Well, the story hopefully I've told is, I was doing what I had to do to take care of our family.
Yeah.
And, that's an elevated version of that.
Right.
And fortunately, I got the wake-up call pretty early on that I needed to make a radical change there. And I did. It took a while, but I did make immediate changes. And that's another story for another time. But I think as far as men go, because so many men out there, their identity is so attached to their work or their profession or being an entrepreneur or whatever it may be, that it's hard to separate that out. And then you couple that with being a provider, and, men justify doing that. But at the end of the day, it's like, what'd you have to miss in order to do that? And
lots of precious
did it truly
moments.
make you happy? Lots of precious moments.
Yeah. And it's funny, you tapped on that men's identity and their mission is tied up in their work. They're getting their needs met through work. It's like, well, this is where I get my needs met. Cool. What about your children? How about their identity? Where do you think they're getting their needs met? Through the love and presence of their mother and father. So good job, selfish bastard. Not saying you, but if men are just focused on themselves and their needs, and we can tell the story that, I'm doing it for my family. I'm building this empire for my family. I'm making this extra money, working these extra hours for my family. But that's not what they want or what they need. What they need is you, your presence, your heart, open and online. So just a little shift in perspective. I don't think it's an either or. I think it's a yes and, right?
You're right.
It's finding that sacred third.
That's exactly what I was going to say. And I want to keep bringing that concept into this podcast, because this is something we're going to reference over and over again. And it's not a word in the culture, this sacred third. When there's two properties come together in biology, there's an emergent third property that comes together. When there's two, then there's three. So we talk about it in the context of shadow, the positive pole and the negative pole, and born out of those two poles is this sacred third, the purest natural expression. Thank you. The triangle, where on the bottom parts you have the positive pole and the negative pole of the shadow, or whatever we're talking about. And this is also tied into like the reptilian brain of that pain pleasure pathway, which most people, humans, are existing on because of many reasons we can go down a rabbit hole on, but we're driven by pleasure and we're driven by pain, and most are just ping-ponging back and forth. But really the goal or the outcome is to get to this sacred third, this new emergent piece that is coming online, that is born out of those shadows. So I give it up to men that are out there working their ass off to provide for their families, that are doing the things that no one else is willing to do to make sure their families are taken care of. And you know what? On the other end, there's a lot of men that are sitting on their ass playing video games, drinking beer, eting chips, not taking care of their families, right? So we got to find a sacred third of that, I think, is what we're ultimately getting to here.
Right. It's funny when you said two properties. I'm like a rental property and like a multi-family unit, or like come together to form a condo. Like, why are you talking about real estate? And then you mentioned reptilians. I'm like, oh, he's really going down the rabbit hole. So the global elite are reptilian. No, not going there. Okay,
let's just get it out.
Good thing I pulled the brake on that one. I'm like, what? Oh, he's getting good now.
Just so it's recorded. So yes, there's satanic pedophiles that want to depopulate the planet and enslave the rest of humanity. Can we just accept that as the baseline core thing going on, and we can move on from there? Is this debated at this point? I don't know.
Yeah. Except that it is a fact right now. Yes. Accept that it's happening and let them continue to do it. No.
Right.
No.
Well, that's what, this work that we're doing inadvertently is now championing are men that are standing up, that are powerful, that are strong, that are saying no, that are resisting those powers. And the more men that come to the light, so to speak, and embody this sacred, awakened, masculine, energetic, we win.
Right. Right.
Just to be clear on the stated goal, like we win.
Yeah. And without going further down the rabbit hole, really, no, just let's just wrap it up in this. The movie The Matrix was a documentary, and what your job is to figure out who you are in the film and who's really running the show. And the only thing I'll say is wake up, Neo. Wake up.
I think it's fascinating that the Terminator was the prequel to The Matrix, and I didn't realize it was the same woman that wrote it. Both of those stories.
Yep.
I just wish James Cameron hadn't directed it, but hey, that's another story. All right.
Yeah. All right.
So not working so hard.
Side ramp there, a little off-road excursion. Now
hey, that's
back.
What this podcast is about, man. We got to keep it real. We got to, as much we're trying to connect with everyone, we're also truth tellers.
Well,
and
yeah,
that's where we're at.
Going back to the regrets, I want to mention the one that you shared, the sixth one, which I think is great, since we're talking about that. I wish I'd spent more time at the office is not one of the regrets, right? And then you've got the guys that are spending all their time in the office and to take care of their family, but they're not taking care of their family's hearts in the way that they need. And then you've got the opposite end of that pole, which is the guys who are doing nothing, that are at home, but they're playing video games, eating, drinking beer, whatever. So Michael had a brilliant point that we need to add to the list now in this new age, in this new year of 2024, that I wish I'd spent more time scrolling social media is not one of the fucking regrets of the dying.
Right.
And how many of us are addicted to that drug? And look, I'm raising my hand. I've done it before. It's like, oh, I'm just going to check that message that somebody sent me. And 30 minutes later, I'm like, son of a, why am I still on this?
Right.
That's what it's designed to do. So,
yeah. And, we've talked. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just going to say time is the resource we don't get back. Yeah. Money, you can earn more money, right? You can generate more money, everything else. Time you don't get back. So if you squander that precious resource scrolling social media or doing something that is meaningless and unfulfilling, I heard it said before that our life is God's gift to us. What we do with it is our gift to him, or our insult.
Yeah. Ooh. I like that last part.
Russell,
Bronnie Ware, who wrote all this, she talks about how time is the thing that is equal in a sense amongst all of us. Now, we don't know how much time we get, right? So she even said in one of her talks, whatever percent of this room will be dead within a year, 5 years, 10 years. So we obviously don't know how much time we get. And time is the one thing, regardless of race, class, creed, color, religion, is the same for all of us. It is the one common attribute we all share. And you're right, we can't buy more of it. So her hope in really embodying and getting these 5 regrets, that we live our life differently, and that we choose happiness. One thing about that social media piece I think is interesting. We've talked and probably will more about the dopamine hijacking that social media is doing, and all the fake dopamine, essentially, or not the real dopamine from actually completing tasks or that, but especially when we're talking about lover energy in sexuality and sacred sexuality, the pleasure pathways are the dopamine pathways. That's what's getting lit up in sexuality, in sexual energy. So if we're getting that fix, so to speak, through social media or porn or whatever, we're not actually activating the core pathways that are lit up to release that pleasure pathway through the dopamine. So just another way that's being robbed in
Yeah.
us humans.
It's another metaphor for that, or a comparison is, and I heard somebody say, it's not having things that is fulfilling, it's getting them, right? So if he was talking about different things in life, but he's like, show me a trust fund baby who's never worked a day in his life, and I'll show you a miserable human being.
Yeah.
Show me somebody who worked his ass off to earn millions, to build an empire. That person is fulfilled. That person has meaning behind what he does. Somebody who just had it handed to them, there's no
Totally.
meaning to it. There's no fulfillment. The person's miserable no matter how much money they have.
Right.
I say that because it's the comparison, like when you're with a woman and you go through the courting process and the attraction and the hunt and the game and all this stuff, and then the sexual, like that's the pathway that dopamine is normally fulfilled through, and it creates a fulfilling experience. If you're just having the dopamine handed to you through social media, it's like a welfare line for your brain. There's no fulfillment. And then when the opportunity to create the real dopamine through the work shows up, you're like, nah, I'm good. Yeah. Right? Like surprisingly
work.
Surprisingly welfare, again, drawing in a lot of analogies here, creates more welfare, creates people that don't want to work, just have things handed to them. Huh.
And just to be clear, those programs exist to actually help people, but it doesn't address the underlying issue, which I think is what you're speaking to.
Yeah. So anyway, again, kind of an off ramp, but social media.
I mean, that's what this podcast is about, because men are getting hijacked. That's the through line I think we're saying here. Yeah. So just to make sure we're staying on track, but this one about working too hard, and again, I think it's important to really reiterate here, men, there's nothing wrong with working hard. Hard work works is the bottom line. So let's keep that, but keep it in check and make sure you're not sacrificing your happiness, your health, your family's well-being for work. And you can tie in, are you just being busy or are you actually making progress? Because a lot of men will hide in their work, or maybe they feel powerful in the boardroom, but not the bedroom. So that's where they're getting their needs met. And again, I think that could be a whole podcast in and of itself.
So I'm looking at regret number 4. I wish I'd stayed in touch with my friends. And wasn't it just the last episode when we were talking about forgiveness and resentment?
Yes.
That seems to be one of the biggest reasons people lose touch with their friends. Either one, they're so self-absorbed and busy, they just forget. And I'm questioning, what kind of a friend are you in the first place? But a lot of times there's little resentments that we let take hold. We don't clear them, we don't forgive them, and it creates distance. So then, that person kind of fades to the background. I had a friend who she would call me on my birthday every year. Like she never forgot. And I'm horrible at remembering people's birthdays, admittedly. But she always remembered my birthday, and it was really cool until she didn't. And, because, by the way, and it motivated me to always remember her birthday, to always try to do something special, right? It's like we want to give what we're getting, right? Until she didn't. And she called me on my birthday once while I'm having dinner with friends. She's out of the country, to ask me to do something for her. And that was it. Like, totally oblivious it was even my birthday. And I never addressed it. I don't think I called her for her birthday again, at least not for a while. And I'm like, wow, you're going to let that little thing, right? Because it's just a thing. But it's not that she forgot my birthday. It's the story I assigned to it that created this resentment. And like, she's a fucking dear friend, heart of gold, precious to me. Why would I let that friendship grow distant over something as silly as that? Because my ego got her feelings hurt.
Right.
So Regret number 4, I wish I'd stayed in touch with my friends. And I think there's also I want to hear what you have to say on this one too, but I think there's also an assumption, an unconscious assumption or against this story that if they haven't reached out to me, they must not want to hear from me. They must not want to be in touch with me. So then I won't reach out to them either.
Right.
So again, it's all bullshit. That's a story in your head.
Totally.
How often have you experienced it where somebody I had it just recently. Somebody reached out. It's like, hey man, I have not heard your voice for a while. Just wanted to reach out. I'm like, it feels
You tell
really
them to
good.
subscribe to the podcast.
I see what you call Michael. He talks a lot more than me. You'll really enjoy the conversation.
I'm down.
But, what are the other reasons you would not stay in touch with your friends? What do you think of the stories people tell themselves?
Well, I'm too busy.
Yeah.
I know we're, again, dating ourselves, which is fine. We're more Generation X, where you would pick up the phone and just call someone. And nowadays, people get offended if you just pick up and call them. It's like, why didn't you message me and tell me you were going to call? You're just calling me out of the blue.
Right.
Like, that's a thing now, right? Yeah. So, it's that inverse thing where, you have 3,000 friends on Facebook and one friend in reality, right? It's inverse, right? And that's just a call out to the culture that we live in now, where it's like, oh, I have this many followers, and everything looks like my life is so perfect online, and got this shot of me in the sunset. Have you ever watched people, selfieing and all that for Instagram? I'm sure in LA you see it all the time, but it's like,
I can't even go to the gym without seeing it.
Right. And it's like, you think like you see it online, you're like, oh, they captured this moment. No, they sat there for 20 minutes trying to get this one shot that shows how perfect their life is, right? And I have found so many times, and unfortunately, friends and real friends that I know, where I'll find out about, oh, their marriage is breaking up, but I just saw them on Facebook or Instagram, and it looks like their life is great.
Mm-hmm.
And that's happened more than 1, 5, 10 times I've seen, unfortunately, where it's like, you're getting their greatest hits and you're not seeing what's really going on with people. I applaud people that authentically show what's going on in their life on social media. Sometimes, again, too far, but are keeping it real with like, hey, this is where I'm really at. But as far as the keeping in touch with friends, it's said that, if you have a best friend or a friend that you've been with for a certain number of years, I forget what number, I think it's maybe 5 years. It doesn't matter how much time goes by, that friend will always be there. But it does take touching back in and connecting back in. I like to sometimes just scroll through my phone, to use the word scroll, and just call one of my friends at random and just say, hey, how you doing? It's been a while. And it rekindles that friendship. It's so important to do. So that's just something as far as a actionable or a strategy we can throw out there, because men are alone. A lot of men, women have friends. Women have generally a social circle or people they can call upon or have a support network. Men don't. Most men maybe have one friend, maybe.
Yeah.
And that's real.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's what we're changing with our brotherhood, right? Where you have a brotherhood of men. You have 20 men that are right there at the ready for you. Whatever you're going through, whatever you need.
Right.
It's amazing.
And previous to the brotherhood, I have had moments of deep sadness when I realized if I didn't reach out to anybody, no one would reach out to me. I didn't have any friends at periods in my life where somebody would just call and go, hey man, how are you? Like, and of course the story, nobody cares. Like, ugh. And with this brotherhood, I don't have that possibility anymore. You
can't hide
on the, now it's gone the other way. Leave me alone. No, just kidding. That regret number 4, you've also had the experience, Michael, recently of a couple of friends or mentors even that you'd just been too busy and you hadn't reached out and they died.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how many times when that happened did you like, shit, I wish I just reached out, or I had the feeling to reach out and I didn't?
I'm going to share a quick story on that if it's okay. not about the mentor you're referencing, which is also true. But I had a friend when I was living back in California. He was actually my first friend I made in California that wasn't a chiropractic student, which was pretty significant at the time. And he was about 10 years older than me. And he was just a real good guy. He owned a bakery. Ultimately, he made the wedding cake for my wedding. Became a dear friend, and he committed suicide a few years ago. And it was just the anniversary, I believe, of his, I think, 3 years now of his suicide. And I remember he had an injury that never fully recovered from, and that sort of led him downhill. Ultimately, led to his taking of his own life. And I remember he still owned and operated a bakery at the time in the town I lived in for many years. And I didn't go over there that much. And, we stayed in touch sporadically, like we're talking about. And I remember I had visited him once. So, like when I was going back and forth with LA, I used to fly into Oakland. It was right near where I used to live. So I'd stop by and say hi to him. And I remember the last time I saw him, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm not doing so good." And he like shared with me a bit. And I sat with him, we talked, but I never followed up with him on that. And at the time, I think Ignite was getting going, like we were starting to do our immersions. And I always regret that I never followed up with him and invited him in, or even just personally took the time to spend more time with him and help him, because I knew what was going on and I knew I could help. And then I moved here, and then right after I moved here is when that happened. And yeah, that's a regret I hold. Not saying I could have saved his life or whatever, but
Right.
I do
Right.
know that it could have made a difference. And uh, the pain of that has prompted me to not let that happen anymore. So hopefully it doesn't take something so tragic happening to wake us up. But
Right.
that's something that, yeah, uh, once they're dead, it's too late, is the bottom
Right.
line. So, well,
So,
let's keep
men,
moving along here.
yeah, I was going to say, men listening, if you've got somebody that's a friend or somebody that you love, tell them, reach out. Just reach out. Don't make the assumption that that they don't want to talk to you because they haven't reached out or that they're too busy. Reach out. Be the initiator.
Yeah.
Be a
And
man.
if you're someone that's having these thoughts of taking your own life and thinking that you're the only one and thinking that you have no support, reach out to us, right?
Yeah.
Reach out to somebody. Uh, the challenge with suicide is that people believe that no one cares and they don't reach out. And so many people on the other side say, "I wish they had just shared about it."
Right.
Because usually those are the men that look like they have everything together. They're
Yep.
holding it all together. I shared a video in our bonfire, our brotherhood, once, where it was the video, so sad, but it was the video of men that had taken their own lives, and it was the last video of them alive before they took their own lives, and all of them looked happy.
Mm-hmm.
All of them were. It was like a birthday celebration. It was a family gathering, and it was like you could never tell. So I think that ties into number 3, which is not expressing our feelings.
Right.
I wish I had the
Yeah.
courage to express my feelings, and this is something we talk about as a uh, piece of arrested development in men's maturity, is the lack of processing of emotion, or knowing what that is, or all the things associated with that. So,
Yeah.
you want to speak to that one a little bit?
Yeah. It's
The
part of that.
courage to express our feelings,
Yeah. It's part of that weird lover archetype thing that we keep talking about. Is the
right?
ability
That
to express.
emotional intelligence,
Yeah. Because, yeah. What was it? The two emotions men know? Anger and what's the other
and
one?
frustration,
That's it.
frustration.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like you could
maybe
be
sadness.
happy or yeah, happy or angry.
Yeah.
And happy's not usually that happy. So yeah,
Happy
we're
comes from happenstance, which is based on the circumstance. It's not a
right.
real thing.
There
Yeah.
you go. There you go.
Anyway, go ahead.
Check
Sorry.
out the big brains on Brad. Nice. Um, yeah,
That's a Hawaiian burger joint, isn't it? Sorry. I had to
oh
do it.
shit! Here he
Sorry. I
goes.
had to do it.
Here he goes. Um, say one more. All right.
They
All right.
speak English
Stop.
on what?
Stop. 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 we'll do the whole damn movie. So yeah, as men, as boys, we're taught men don't cry, men don't feel, suck it up, don't be a bitch, don't show your feelings, don't show emotions. How's that working out? It's like all of that is a lie. All that is wrong. Now, are there times when we have to hold the emotion until the mission is done? Yes, absolutely.
Yep.
Are there times that we have to, I'm doing air quotes here, man up and finish the fucking job, the fight, the whatever it is that we're in, to be the rock for everybody else? Yes, absolutely. But there has to be a time when we show emotions too. There has to be a time when we feel too. You can't keep that stuff bottled up. It will kill you.
Yeah.
Literally, as well as figuratively.
And just to go to the physiology, which we always like to bring in, we talk about all the time, emotion, right? Energy in motion. Emotion, the purpose of emotion in your physiology is to radically shift your physiology to ready yourself for action, right? Think about when you feel really angry about something, there's a lot of energy in anger, right?
Mm-hmm.
The problem is we just put it back in, repress it, and then it creates disease or perpetuates disease in the body. Emotion is meant to move, right? Not to sound crude, but emotion's like a fart, and you let it out, it stinks for a minute, and then you feel better because you let it out. Not to, again, be so crude, but emotion is meant to drive us, it's meant to move us. It's passion, it's feeling, it's being empathic, right? A lot of men that we work with, one of the challenges in their relationship is you're not present and you're not showing empathy for what's going on in my life, spoken from the partner's perspective, right? So we got to be able to connect with how other people feel. And that's the difference between sympathy and empathy. Sympathy is like, oh, that's unfortunate you feel that way. Empathy is like, I feel your pain. I feel what you're going through because I have too felt that experience. And that's very different and much more transformational. So one of the core pieces that we do in men's work in the Awakened Mask is, get to know your feelings, be able to express your emotions properly. Right?
It's a really good point. And I'm just reflecting on that as you're saying it, that sympathy is connected to fixer energy, right? Because we as men want to fix it. We don't want to feel it. We want to fix it quick so you don't have to feel it. That's not what's usually required.
Stop being a simp.
Especially if you're, with your woman, right? And it's like, oh, I'm sorry you feel that way. It's going to be okay. It'll be all right. That's fixer. That's bullshit. And it's completely invalidating what they're feeling, right? Where empathy is like, I feel you. I feel what you're feeling. I've been there. And I'm not going to try to fix it. I'm just going to sit here in it with you. That's
so here's
healing.
An example. Yeah. So here's the difference, because this is a nuance that's so big. Men, how many of you out there have said, I'm sorry that what I did hurt you, versus I'm sorry I hurt you? Saying sorry, something I did hurt you,
or I'm sorry,
separates you.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry you felt what I said was offensive.
Right. You're separate versus I'm sorry I hurt you. Totally different. And it takes some humility and humbleness to really own that, fuck, that had an impact. And the only way we can actually really go there without it just being, lip service, is to be connected to our own feelings, which is this regret that she talks about of, man, I just wish I had the courage to express my feelings, how I really felt about something.
Right.
Huge.
And, without it being emotional or relational, here I think is another example of I wish I'd had the courage to express my feelings more. I hate my job. I'm completely unfulfilled. I don't want to do this anymore. But you don't say it, and you don't have the courage to express your feelings, and you don't have the courage to strike out on a new path.
Right.
That's a life of suffering, not fulfillment. So that could be an element of expressing your feelings too. It's like, you know what? I know I'm meant for more. I don't know what it is. Well, okay, let's start there. Do you have the courage to look for more? Do you have the courage to become an explorer, an adventurer, a pioneer, branch out on this new path, and if you do know what it is, can you head that direction? Can you express your feelings that way? Or, you know what? I'm not happy in this relationship. Can you express your feelings to yourself?
Yeah.
Can
Which
you have
ties
that
into
courage?
the last one. I wish I'd let myself be happier.
Yeah. What does that look like for you? Is your happiness being robbed from you because of your health, because of your relationship, because of your job, because of your lack of finances? Whatever it is, the question is, do you have the courage to fucking do something about it? Can you allow yourself to be happy? And yeah, it's going to be scary at first because you've gotten comfortable in your little prison cell. By the way,
It's funny.
I was going to say I'm speaking to myself and Michael as well, right? Because
I'm raising my hand
we
on
all
this
do
one.
it in one way or another.
Here's
Do
an
you have the
interesting little
courage?
test for you out there. And it's something Nani and my wife and I have noticed when we go out to a restaurant. We've noticed that the happiest people in a restaurant, the ones that are working there, usually are the busboys. The people that make the least amount of money seem to be the happiest. Waiters sure don't seem happy. They're stressed the hell out, right? Cooks are working their ass off. They're way disconnected from their feelings typically because they're just working so hard. But it's the busboys, the ones cleaning up after everyone. So to your point of like, it's not about the circumstance. It's not about the finance. It's yes, money doesn't make you happy, right? We've heard that for so many, generations now. Money just amplifies what's already there, right?
Right.
I mean, you can buy happiness for a temporary, short amount of time, no doubt. Believe me. Money could definitely purchase some fun stuff, no doubt.
Right.
Russell's not going to respond to that one, but so I'm not gonna imagine for a moment that money isn't important here,
Right.
but it's beyond that at this point, and ultimately in the arc of your life, did you let yourself be happy? I'll just share personally for a moment. There was a time, and probably because of stress of finances or whatever, where my family started calling me a grump. And I was like, I really got on them about that. I'm like, stop calling me that. They're like, well, stop being grumpy. And I was like, real gut check. Like, wow, I really had to sit with that and be like, yeah, why am I acting frustrated and grumpy? Like, life is good. Things are okay. Got food in the fridge, got a roof over my head, got clothes on my back. My kid's doing good. My relate, like, what the fuck do I have to be grumpy about? And it was just a choice I was making every day. It wasn't based on any circumstance because when I looked at the circumstances of my life, everything was okay. So,
Right.
yeah, just thought I'd throw that out there.
Yeah. So in researching the 5 regrets of the dying, I found another one that said the 9 most common regrets people have at the end of life. So I want to run through those real quick and see if anything pops. And a lot of them are the same.
Yeah.
One is they wish they had been more loving to the people who matter the most. So who are you withholding love from, men?
And to that, I'll just say the thing that you feel like you're lacking is the thing you need to give more of.
Boom.
If you're lacking love, give love.
2, they wish they had been a better spouse, parent, or child. And I'm going to go back to forgiveness and letting go of resentment.
Yeah.
3, they wish they'd not spent so much time working. That's parallel. They wish they'd taken more risks. Number 4. Wish they had taken more risks.
Adventure.
Yeah. I got a book once said, do something that scares you every day. Every day, do something that scares you. And man, what a rich, energy-rich life you'll have if you do that.
Oh, yeah.
Take more risks. 5, they wish they had been happier and enjoyed life more. We talked about that. 6, they wish they had lived their dream. Step 1, have a dream. Step 2, know what it is. Step 3, go live it.
And I think that ties into her number 1 regret, right? I wish I had the courage to live a life true to myself and not what others expected of me. And I know we didn't dive too deep on that one, but that one's powerful. I mean, it was the number 1 regret, right? Where people were living this life that how many men do we find like in the second half of their life that we work with that realize, hey, I did everything I was told to do and it was all bullshit.
Yeah.
Or I'm not happy. it goes back to our 5 pains of men and the check boxes. I got the car, I got the money, got the job, got the wife, got the house, got the car, got the kids, but I'm fucking miserable.
Right. Raymond K. Hessel. What did you want to be?
Right. Stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Great scene. And that's just it. Go live your dream life. If you want to be if you want to be a poet, be a poet. Like if you want to, and it's like, I think there's also, we get into this, like you have to be a millionaire, you have to build an empire. Look, if your dream is selling coconuts with little pink umbrellas in them on the beach in Cancun, fucking go do it. Live the life that you wish. 7, they wish they'd taken better care of themselves. Guys, health is your first wealth. I don't care how much money you have in the bank. If you're fat and out of shape, get winded walking up a flight of stairs, can't participate in everything life has to offer, you're broke. Health is your first wealth. And again, you'll spend your health making all this money and then spend all your money trying to get your health back. Like just take care of yourself. Take care of yourself, right? Mentally and emotionally as well as physically. Right. 8, wish they'd done more for others.
Contribution.
Yep. And 9, wish they had chosen more meaningful work. That kind of goes to contribution as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully out of these regrets, something has clicked with you, and some's like, "Ooh, yeah, that one hits me." You know, like, so where are you? Where are you living your life in a way that you will regret? If tomorrow is your last day, if next week is your last week, if next month is your last month. And I've done an exercise like that. Picture that you have 6 years left to live. It's like, what would you do with your life if you knew you only had 6 years left? Now, what if you only had 6 months left?
Right.
If you knew you only had 6 months left, what would you do with your life?
Isn't there that parable where the doctor calls the patient and says, sorry to tell you, you got 8 months to live. And the guy starts, oh my God, I only have 8 months to live. And then he calls him back, said, sorry, I made a mistake. It's actually 8 weeks.
Right.
Right. And then it's like, oh shit, what are you going to do now? Right. So,
right. So
same,
that's
same idea.
Yeah. So yeah, then, 6 weeks, and then it's 6 days, and then it's 6 hours. What would you do with your life? And it's probably going to be a different answer at each one of those time frames. But the question that it ultimately results in is, what are you doing with your life now? And if the answer to those other time frames isn't in your life now, what are you doing?
Yep.
Don't live a life that you'll regret.
There's a great Steve Jobs did a commencement ceremony speech at Stanford back in 2005, I believe. And he says that he's like, I look in the mirror when he was alive, of course, look in the mirror every day. And he says to himself, if what I'm about to do today doesn't make me happy, and I say that as, a number of, I'm trying to remember the exact quote, but basically, if a number of days in a row I'm saying that to myself, it's time to reevaluate what I'm doing. So, all these things tie back into the same thing. Live life with purpose. Live life like you are going to die tomorrow. Plan forever, but like you're going to die tomorrow.
Right.
Let yourself be happier. Truly, like that whole forgiveness, resentment piece that we've talked about, huge. Letting shit go. Right. And as far as an actionable, first of all, which one of these was a gut punch? And just be with that.
Yeah.
And 2, call up that friend. Who's that person you haven't connected with in a while that you could just call up and pick up right where you left off? That would be what I would recommend.
There you go. Yep. I feel the same thing. Evaluate your life. Which one of these is a gut punch? Absolutely. And, make sure you're not living a life that you're going to regret. Tomorrow's not promised to any of us. Not next week, not next month, not next year. Live your life now with meaning, with purpose, with passion.
That's a beautiful way to end it.
There you go.
Great conversation. Definitely one of our longer podcasts, which tells us that we're really hitting on something. That or I talk too much. Either one. But either way.
A little bit of both. And we got a couple of Pulp Fiction references in there. Like, it was good. It was good.
Men out there, if this podcast is resonating with you, like it, subscribe to it, share it.
Please
reach out to us if you want to go further in this work. We're here for you. Leave some comments. We're happy to respond to those. And even if you want to get some movie quote banter going, we're down for that too. So like, share, subscribe to the Ignite the King podcast. Pleasure to be with all of you today. Have a beautiful rest of your day.
Peace.